Do you remember my Wily merchandise? Well, it's on sale now. Use the link in the description or the promo code on screen right now on Teespring and get 10% off. Go check it out. Now, we've all been waiting for ages for the new Breath of the Wild game, but so far we've seen very little, sadly enough. And so, while I was streaming Age of Calamity, you lovely people who watch this channel came up with a great idea, doing a video on boss ideas for Breath of the Wild 2. So here we are. Let's look into some cool concepts that I personally came up with, as well as some that you lovelies mentioned during the stream. And I gotta say, some of these are pretty sweet, and are so fun that I would love to actually see them in the game. Now let's dive in right away. Number 1. Now to start off, we will look at a creature that is horrifying. And I'm not kidding. This thing would be some real nightmare fuel. Especially if you would encounter it in a place like the Korok Forest. That place is already a bit spooky, but this boss would make it so much worse. Now I named this awful creature the Hollow Blight. And the whole idea behind its design is actually quite simple. It's a very messy monster that's completely made out of random enemy bones combined together with malice goop. And all along the surface of this monster you will see skeleton faces of different enemies like bokoblins, lizalfos and moblins. In a way, this whole concept is a combination of two Zelda enemies that we have seen before in the series. The Choo-Choo, which is a gelatinous creature of living slime or jelly, and they come in a wide variety of colors and types, with some having different traits and behaviors depending on their color. And the other enemy I took inspiration from is the Cursed Skull, which are only seen in the first Breath of the Wild. They are basically floating heads, similar to bubbles from older games, and are spawned from malice. They are only found within the 4 divine beasts in Hyrule Castle, charging at you if you're in range. However, if you combine these two creatures together and increase their size a bit, you end up with quite a unique and scary boss. However, now that you have an idea of what it would look like, what does it do in the game? How does it attack? What is its weak point? And how do you even defeat it? Well, let's say you encounter it in Korok Forest, moving around slowly, and then it sees you. It will start to grow in size by the looks of it, but that's not actually the case. It kind of puffs itself up, and it does this to scare you. And then, all of a sudden, you will see lots of skulls pop out of the malice as well as bones that act as some sort of armor. Now hitting it on these bone bits will actually do less damage to the creature, while hitting the skulls does extra damage. However, those skulls are constantly moving in the sea of malice goop, so hitting those is harder because of that. Now, when it comes to its tactics, it has a couple. First of all, it will constantly spawn those cursed skulls. Aside from that, it will also try to grab you with its malice, sort of sucking you up. And it does this by flattening out so you can get stuck with your feet, or literally reaching out with a malice-like hand. In a way, it's a bit similar to a like from the other Zelda games. And if it does get you, you will have to hit the A button really fast to break free. And as long as you're stuck, you will take damage. Now its last attack is a slow crush type attack. All of a sudden you will see a bone coming out of the top of the malice goop, and then it will slam down with force. So if you don't watch out, you will be crushed by this huge bone. Or it will do something similar to this, but it's actually a Lizalfos arm that it will throw at you like a boomerang. Pretty cool idea for a boss, right? Number 2. Now for our next one, we will again look at a quite creepy and unsettling boss. Something that's straight up nightmare fuel. And it's also something that we have never really seen in the Zelda series. Well, as far as I know at least. I call it the Possessed Tree. And it's basically some sort of haunted demon tree, which has been seen in fantasy games before, but never in a Zelda game. Now this boss is basically a huge living Deku tree that looks a bit off, almost like it's dead, but its eyes glow red and you can see malice in its eyes. Aside from that, it also has something else going for itself that's even scarier, especially if you look at it for too long. The outside of the tree is completely covered in morphing faces that change locations constantly. As you can imagine, this is a terrifying thing to see coming at you out of the mist or something, but you can't ignore it. You have to look straight at it, and especially those hideous faces all over its body. Because hitting those with a bow, which is your best bet because it's quite a tall enemy, does bonus damage, and this also goes for any fire-based attacks. And I know, again with the faces, but to be honest, I find something like this cool and creepy. And you gotta admit, it works incredibly well for both of these bosses. So hey, why not give both nightmare fuel faces all over? However, its attacks are quite different compared to the previous boss idea that we talked about. Now, its first attack is quite simple and predictable. It tries to hit you with its large branches, whacking down trying to hit you. So that's nothing too special. But luckily enough, this isn't the only thing he will do to destroy you. Because this boss will actually use a specific item to disorient the player, so it can slip in a devastating attack. The tree will start shaking around, and thanks to this, all kinds of things will start falling out of the tree. Like branches, arrows that you fired at it which can do damage, other goodies, and also Deku nuts. Now of course the arrows can hurt you as well as the other stuff falling out of the tree, but in general trying to grab them could be very tempting. In a way, it's similar to the Stone Talus, who can draw precious gemstones during the battle. However, if you dare to go under this tree and grab some of these goodies, then you risk getting stunned. And if this happens, you will be stuck in place for a bit, allowing the boss to attack you, dealing massive damage. And then, aside from all of this, it still has one trick up its sleeve. And this one can be quite scary to get caught in. The tree will sort of sit down and its roots will shoot into the ground. And soon after, you will see the ground around the tree breaking apart, which looks similar to the visor attack of the Yiga Blade Masters. And then, all of a sudden, dozens of roots will pop out of the ground that will whip around violently. And if these hit you, they will take damage and even fly back quite a bit. And this whole attack covers quite a big area. In general, this enemy does a lot of damage, has great range, and is quite slow. So it's similar to something like a Stone Talus, but stronger. And it could be anywhere, just standing there looking like a normal tree, just like the Stone Talus. But then, all of a sudden, it comes alive. Number 3. Now for our final one, we will be talking about a boss that's a lot faster, more agile, and can deal damage close up as well as far away. It's a special type of Lynel that is stronger than any of the others we have seen in the first Breath of the Wild game. And that's because this Lynel is actually a warlord, a leader of sorts. And because of this, it's of course the biggest and strongest of all. When it comes to its size, it's about 50% bigger than a normal Lynel. Its horns are also bigger, and it wears very decorative armor made from metal, fur, and the bones of enemies that it has defeated. Now, when it comes to its weapons, it's also quite different. Instead of using a one-handed sword with a shield or a spear, it will be using a total of 2 crushers. And it's so strong that just one hit from these will send you flying. Even blocking it with a shield won't work, because it will knock the thing out of your hand. The only option you have is dodging or parrying. And when it comes to its ranged weapon, it actually uses a completely new type that we haven't seen before in a main series Zelda game, a crossbow. Now this weapon can shoot 5 bolts at a time just like the bow can, but the main difference is its speed and power. It's quite slow to reload, giving the player the chance to either quickly attack him or run away. And when he fires it, the arrows will fly in a cone pattern, increasing the chance that it will hit you, and when it does, it will do a lot of damage. Now aside from that, it of course has more health than a normal Lynel, as well as some new attacks to make things more interesting. One new thing that it can do is throw a bolas at you, which is a type of throwing weapon made of weights on the ends of interconnected cords. Now these things are mainly used to capture animals by entangling their legs, and it does this very effectively. And the Lynel will use this when you either try to run away or charge right at it. And when it hits you, you're stuck. Now the only way you can break free is by mashing the A button really fast. And you gotta be quick, because the Lynel will use this opportunity to strike. And it also has one other new trick. It can charge charge up its fireball attack in its hands, and it will throw it into the air. Thanks to this, it will start raining fireballs. In a way, it's similar to what a Wizrobe can do. However, the Lynel does all of this a lot faster, he cannot be interrupted, and after doing this, he will charge at you again. And that's the boss basically. It's just a stronger and more badass Lynel, who actually rules them all. He's at the very top of Lynel society. Now let me know in the comments down below what you think of my boss ideas. And hey, tell me about your boss ideas for Breath of the Wild 2. I'm also thinking about doing more videos similar to this one, but about enemies, dungeons, villages, all kinds of things. So give me some ideas down in the comments, and I might feature them in a video. Because you gotta admit, it looks like Breath of the Wild 2 isn't gonna release anytime soon. So we got more than enough time to make some glorious videos speculating about what we would see in the game. And don't forget, be sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button.